For 23 years, Megan McDonald's killer had one thing on his side. Time. Time to let memories fade. Time to let witnesses disappear. Time to let a murder scene turn into a cold case file. And for a while, it worked. Because on a dark March night in 2003, a 20-year-old college student vanished in Wallkill, New York. The next day, her body was found dumped on a muddy dirt path. She had been beaten to death. Not robbed, not assaulted, just hunted down and brutally silenced. For years, police had theories, names, suspicions, but no conviction. Then, 2 decades later, they finally arrested someone. Her ex-boyfriend. The prosecution said science had caught up with the killer. New DNA technology, old evidence. A case that had slept for 20 years suddenly came back to life. And for a moment, it looked like Megan McDonald was finally going to get justice. But then came the retrial. Then came the deliberations. Then came the verdict. Not guilty. And just like that, after 23 years of silence, the case wasn't solved. It was broken open all over again. Because now the biggest question is worse than ever. If Edward Hawley didn't kill Megan McDonald, then who did? And why does this case still feel like something bigger is hiding just beneath the surface? This is the story of Megan McDonald, a murder that never stopped haunting the Hudson Valley, a case built on blood, distance, and silence, and a verdict in March 2026 that didn't end the mystery. It only deepened it. Megan McDonald was 20 years old. She was a SUNY Orange student. She worked as a server at the American Cafe in the Galleria at Crystal Run. She lived in Wallkill in Orange County, New York. By all accounts, she was social, well-liked, and living the kind of ordinary young life that leaves people thinking tragedy happened somewhere else. It didn't happen somewhere else. It happened here. Megan was also the daughter of a retired NYPD detective. That detail would follow the case for years. Not because it solved anything, but because it made the absence of justice feel even heavier. This wasn't a woman who disappeared into the margins. Her case stayed alive because her family kept it alive, and because the way she died was impossible to ignore. Violent, personal, deliberate. Nothing about it looked random. The 13th of March 2003 started like a normal day. Megan worked. Later, she spent time with friends. That night, she visited a party on Greenway Terrace, but according to the case file, she stayed in her car rather than joining in. At some point later, she drove to Middletown, reportedly trying to buy marijuana. Then came the final confirmed movement. At about 12:35 in the morning on March 14, Megan's white 1991 Mercury Sable was seen entering the Kensington Manor apartment complex. That is one of the last confirmed moments in which her movements can be pinned down with certainty. After that, the timeline goes dark. No one publicly confirmed seeing her alive again. No frantic calls for help. No witness stepping forward to say they saw the attack. No neat, courtroom-friendly sequence of events. Just a car. A night drive. And then a blank space where the truth should have been. On the 15th of March 2003, 2 hikers found Megan's body on a remote dirt path off Bowser Road in Wallkill. It was the kind of place people pass without noticing. Muddy, isolated, quiet. Her body had been left there after the attack. And the attack itself was savage. The medical examiner confirmed blunt force trauma and multiple skull fractures. She had been bludgeoned to death. No sexual assault. No robbery. That mattered. Because it told investigators something important very early on. The motive likely wasn't opportunity. It looked personal. This was not a case of someone trying to steal and panicking. This was violence directed at one person, with intensity. Someone wanted Megan dead. As investigators processed the evidence, a disturbing picture began to emerge. Megan had not been killed where she was found. She was killed in the back seat of her own car. That meant the body on Bowser Road was not the crime scene. It was the dumping ground. Evidence supported that. Bloodstains, signs she had been dragged, a missing shoe, clumps of hair with tissue attached, a bank deposit receipt dated March 13 near the body. Pieces that suggested a body had been moved and left behind, not attacked there. Then there was the car. New York State Police led the investigation. In the early years, the case was shaped as much by what was missing as by what was found. There was no murder weapon. Investigators believed a Stanley ball-peen hammer may have been used, but the actual weapon was never recovered. There were no eyewitnesses to the killing. And there was no immediate forensic breakthrough strong enough to lock the case onto one person and hold it there. Investigators focused on Megan's inner circle. They also looked for a dark-colored Honda Civic, reportedly seen following her car that night. That lead added another layer of mystery, but not enough clarity. From 2003 to 2023, the murder of Megan McDonald remained unsolved. That doesn't mean no one cared. It means they couldn't prove it. There were developments along the way. In 2018, police officially named 2 suspects, including Edward Hawley and the now-deceased Andre Thurston. In 2022, a public billboard campaign was launched to generate new leads. The case even got renewed attention through national coverage. But still, no conviction. Still, no final answer. 20 years is a long time in any murder case. Witness memories get softer, physical evidence gets harder to interpret, and every gap in the story grows wider. But in 2023, investigators made the move that changed everything. They arrested Edward Hawley. Hawley was Megan's former boyfriend. According to prosecutors, their theory was simple enough to understand and difficult enough to prove. They alleged he was a jealous ex. They claimed he owed Megan money, around $2,000 related to a car. They argued he lied about his whereabouts the night she died. And they said the brutality of the attack fit the profile of a deeply personal confrontation rather than a random act. Then came the forensic angle. In 2023, investigators cited DNA evidence processed using true allele technology, sometimes described in coverage as high-tech or cyber DNA analysis. Prosecutors argued it linked Hawley to evidence in the car and to a cigarette butt. There were also statements placing a car similar to his near the scene. Cell phone evidence came up, so did testimony from a jailhouse informant. Put together, the state's case was not built around one smoking gun. It was built around accumulation, location, relationship, behavior, forensics, timing. The argument was this: no single piece may look overwhelming, but together, they point in one direction. And for a while, that argument worked. At least enough to get him into court. Hawley was charged with second-degree murder. The first trial, in April 2025, ended in a mistrial after the jury deadlocked. That alone told you everything about the case. This was not a slam dunk. It was not one of those prosecutions where the jury just had to decide how long to deliberate before everyone nodded in the same direction. This was a case where the evidence created belief in some people and doubt in others. And doubt is all a defense needs. So the state tried again. The retrial began in January 2026. Orange County Court. This time, the weight was even heavier. More time had passed, more pressure had built, and the question hanging over the courtroom was obvious. Would this finally be the moment the case ended? The prosecution said yes. The defense said not even close. They attacked the DNA evidence. They questioned the reliability and interpretation of the forensic analysis. They hammered the fact that no murder weapon had ever been recovered. No eyewitness had ever placed Hawley at the moment of the attack. No direct physical evidence tied him to the exact killing itself. And when a case is mostly circumstantial, every weak point matters. On the 18th of March 2026, after 14 days of deliberation, the jury returned its verdict. Not guilty. Hawley walked free. That verdict did not mean the jury declared him innocent. It meant the prosecution had not proven guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. That distinction matters. A lot. Even jurors later indicated that some of them did not necessarily believe Hawley was innocent. But belief is not the standard. Proof is. And the state had not cleared that bar. Special prosecutors Julia Cornacchio and Laura Murphy said they were disappointed by the verdict, but accepted it. The family, unsurprisingly, did not see closure in that outcome. And the public was left with an ugly reality. The only man ever charged in Megan McDonald's murder had just been acquitted. So the case, after all those years, was back where it started. Unsolved. As the years passed, this case gathered more than just evidence. It gathered friction. One of the most serious issues raised involved Orange County District Attorney David Hoovler. He eventually recused himself because he had previously represented Andre Thurston, another suspect, in private practice. That conflict became part of the larger public conversation around whether the case had been hindered by prosecutorial complications. Megan's family and the NYPD Detectives Endowment Association called for a federal investigation into Hoovler. There were also allegations tied to an internal state police report claiming deliberate tampering, allegations Hoovler denied. That part is important. Because, whether people believe the accusations or not, the existence of that controversy added fuel to a case that already felt unstable. It made the investigation look not just unsolved, but contested from within. And in a case like this, that kind of distrust spreads fast. As of March 2026, nothing is resolved. Megan McDonald's murder remains officially unsolved. The man once accused of killing her has been acquitted. No new suspects have been named. No new charges have been filed. And law enforcement has made no public statement about what comes next. So after 23 years, the case is no longer cold. But it's not closed either. It's something worse. It's open, without direction, because now investigators aren't just trying to prove a case. They're back to trying to find one. And everything that once pointed somewhere, now points nowhere. Strip away the trials. Strip away the headlines. What's left are the same questions that have existed since 2003. Who was Megan meeting that night? Why did the attack show such personal, repeated violence? How did the killer move her body, abandon the car, and disappear without leaving anything behind that could hold up in court? Or has the real killer never even been close to that courtroom? Because after 2 trials and 1 acquittal, we are no closer to that answer than we were the day her body was found. Some cases fade. This one didn't. It stayed. In conversations, in headlines, in the quiet memory of a place that never got closure. Because Megan McDonald didn't just become a victim. She became an unfinished story. A name tied to a road. A case tied to doubt. And a truth that has somehow stayed hidden for more than 2 decades. Not lost. Not erased. Just never proven. Which means, somewhere, there is still someone who knows exactly what happened on that March night in 2003. And for 23 years, they've lived with that answer, while everyone else is still searching for it. And trust me, this isn't even the most frustrating case we've seen. Hit like and subscribe to Silent Archive TV so you don't miss what's next.